News Talk 610 AM and 102.1 FM. KVNU.
Good afternoon. It's now 5:05, and with your local news headlines, I'm Will Feelright. Well, George Daines is officially the Cache County executive and has now been on the job for about 2 days. Now, Daines replaces former county executive David Zook, who resigned from his position back on September 8th. Daines, a former county attorney, won the Republican nomination a week ago during that special election. It was held last Thursday night. Now, the Cache County Council unanimously approved the appointment without any discussion on Tuesday. In his remarks, Daines said he is already in the process of reorganizing the executive's office and had accepted the resignation of Deputy Executive Dirk Anderson that afternoon. Now, you may remember Anderson was one of the candidates who opposed Daines in the special election. Now, during his campaign, Daines had promised to defend taxpayers from county spending increases and to implement fiscal oversight to put the county government on stable ground. Now, he also acknowledged that the county is enmeshed in the budget process right now and said he would be working on it hard for the next several weeks. Now, Daines will serve out the unexpired term until December of 2026, but has promised to remain in office until his goals are achieved. In other news that we're following this afternoon, the Washington County Sheriff's Office has outlined its limited role in the arrest of Tyler Robinson, the 22-year-old suspect in the fatal shooting of conservative activist Charlie Kirk. Now, Sheriff Nate Brooksby said during a press conference yesterday that he was shocked when all of a sudden he received a phone call from a retired detective last Thursday who had told him that he had the suspect with him.
He said, "Hey, I know who Charlie Kirk shooter is. I know the family through religious association, and he's in Washington County now, and we're working on trying to get him to come in voluntarily."
Now, according to charging documents, Robinson's parents had confronted Robinson after they recognized him from photos that were released by authorities. His father also suspected that a rifle that he had gifted to his son was the murder weapon. Now, Robinson then implied to his parents that he had shot Kirk.
During that phone call, some information was provided about Tyler potentially having some suicidal ideations, was en route to a remote area of Washington County. The parents convinced him not to do that and, conveyed that they would, stand by him and help him surrender peacefully.
Now, the retired detective drove Robinson and his parents to the sheriff's office, where Robinson was greeted by plainclothes officers. Brooksby said that Robinson was not handcuffed and was given water while he waited for lead investigators to arrive. And in other news, 2 young girls were found inside a refrigerated semi-trailer after a critical injury crash that happened along a Utah highway. Jacob Ortel Scott, a 28-year-old, was arrested on suspicion of third-degree felony aggravated child abuse. Now, the crash happened yesterday along northbound I-15 near Linden. According to the Utah Highway Patrol, Scott was driving a tractor-trailer when it lost a tire, which then flew over a wall, hit 2 vehicles, causing minor injuries. Now, a semi-truck then rear-ended a passenger car, pushing it into several other vehicles. Now, while troopers were investigating the crash, one of them noticed 2 sets of eyes in the refrigerated trailer. Scott told the trooper that there were 2 children inside. Troopers opened the trailer and found the 2 young girls who had no way of exiting. Now, investigators said the girls had been in the trailer since leaving Huntington, a trip that had been about 2 hours. Now, the thermostat inside that trailer was set to 30 degrees Fahrenheit. Well, we're going to continue to see mostly clear skies overnight tonight, but then some clouds coming into the valley as overnight temperatures are going to drop into the mid-40s. Tomorrow we'll be back into the high 70s to low 80s with a mix of sun and clouds, and then a chance of some showers coming for Saturday and Sunday. And it's Mountain Valley Heating and Air Conditioning that brings you our weather on the 6s. They want you to feel the love with a new system in your home today. Whether it's residential or commercial, small homes or large businesses, they can take care of it all for you. Get more information by visiting mountainvalleyhvac.com. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News headlines. Another check of local news coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Hi there. We're your new neighbors, the Voles. I'm Horrible, and this is my wife, Terrible. Hi! It's been such a great summer, we gotta have an army of children. Now we're fixing to tear up your yard. The only warning sign of us is some surface tunneling holes, and then boom! Yard death! What do you think? Should we get started, Ma? Yep. These guys aren't going to call the troops at Logan Extermination.
Voles are a problem. They can tear up your lawn and garden. But there is something you can do. Call Logan Extermination at 752-8450.
The station for news and talk. KVNU 610 AM and 102.1 FM.
This is Cache County Fire District Chief Brady George. Due to increasingly dry conditions and high wildfire danger, Stage 1 fire restrictions are now in effect. These restrictions apply to all unincorporated private and state lands in Cache County. These restrictions include no open fires of any kind except within established facilities or in improved campgrounds or day-use areas on public lands. No smoking except within an enclosed vehicle, trailer, or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area that is paved or free from dry vegetation. No cutting, welding, or grinding metal in areas of dry vegetation. No operating a motorcycle, chainsaw, ATV, or other small internal combustion engine without an approved and working spark arrestor. No discharging or using fireworks, tracer ammunition, or other pyrotechnic devices, including exploding targets. Any of these acts is a violation of Utah state law and is punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $1,000. Cache County Fire District urges all residents and visitors to use caution during outdoor activities. Preventing wildfires and protecting the beauty of Cache County is a shared responsibility.
Welcome back to KVNU's For the People, hour 2 of today's show, and a very special guest joining us here in the studio. For regular listeners, you'll know that we spoke 2 weeks ago with Damon Cann, who was a political science professor and at one time mayor here in Cache Valley as well. And he was recently appointed as an advisor to what's called the Form of Government Study Committee. I think I'm getting the name wrong there, but you get it. This was a committee formed by the Cache County Council to, as the name implies, study different forms of county government and report back to the council. And then the council may take that and through a vote, put it on the ballot for voters to take a look at and decide on as well. Or maybe nothing will come of this other than we know more about our current form of county government. Either way, they wanted to take a look. So we spoke with Damon Cann a couple of weeks ago, who presented on just his research on the costs, salary costs of different types of government. You can hear that conversation in our podcast. And today we are following this same line of thinking and the same study work, a different avenue with our good friend, former state lawmaker, and currently chair, I believe, of the committee, Jack Draxler. And Jack, I really appreciate taking some time for us today. This is where we can kind of step away from the kind of the immediacy of a lot of the growth challenges here in Cache County. And as your committee has been tasked by the council, study different types of government and take a very broad view. But this still also kind of ties back into the immediacy of growth and challenges in Cache County. Are you feeling a little pressure?
Not too much pressure, but thank you for inviting me, Jason.
Oh, it's our pleasure.
It's just a process that was established by House Bill 356 that was passed in the last legislative session, which enabled counties to form a committee like ours to study the 4 forms of county government that are allowed by the Utah Constitution and evaluate them, get public comment on them, study them in depth, and then make a recommendation to the county council on whether or not we stay with the form of government we have, or if there's one of the other forms that seems to be a better approach, we advise the council to hold a referendum, an election, and see if the citizens want to go to that form of government. So it's been a great process. You mentioned Dr. Cann. He's been a tremendous help.
He's a smart guy.
Andrew on the staff has been a tremendous help. And then the members of the committee are awesome guys. We have 3 mayors and the director of the health department and myself. And we're trying to be objective and fair and transparent and
Sure.
and just give it a fair due diligence, and then we'll see where we go when it comes to our recommendation. I mentioned to you just a minute ago that we don't want to drag this process out too long, but we do want to be thorough. And so the main thing I'm excited about today is to announce 3 public meetings that we're going to be holding.
I'm excited about this because this is an important part of the process, public education, right?
Yeah. One in Hiram, one in Logan, and one in Smithfield. Anybody in the county can go to any one of these. These will be publicized, but I really hope the public will turn out. It's not that glamorous of a subject.
Yeah.
And yet I've heard you say many times the level of government that has the greatest impact on our daily lives is local government. And people should be interested, I think, in examining these forms of government and helping to give input to the leadership as to which form of government they think is best.
Sure.
So that's what we hope to do in these meetings. We hope to educate a little bit because a lot of people don't immediately know what those 4 forms of government are.
Yeah.
Talk about those and then do some survey work and then listen. We just want to listen.
Sure.
And hear what the public has to say.
And this is so you come at this with a unique perspective of having served in the legislature and worked on a statewide budget and things like that. But it's interesting. You and I have talked before, but you're coming into this with no biases. Your time in the legislature didn't show you that necessarily one form of government was overall better than another.
Right.
But this is kind of getting ahead. Let me ask it this way. So the perspective you can supply for us here is, why do you think the legislature approved this? Why now? What's the driving motive there for the legislature?
I think there were a few counties in the state that were having a little bit of personality differences.
Sure.
And some struggles structurally with their form of government. And so I think the legislature said, let's give counties the option, if they want it, to set up a study committee to look at this, study and educate, and then see which form of government they would recommend to the council.
Sure.
As the best for that county. And as you know, there's no perfect form of government.
No.
None of the 4 is perfect. Each has its benefits and drawbacks. But I think
you also can't say one's better or worse for rural versus urban.
Yeah.
Because there are all these different examples.
Yeah.
And like you said, pros and cons of each. That's been so interesting to learn.
And that's why it's good to do this on a county-by-county basis. And we hope to do our due diligence as a committee and then let the chips fall where they may.
Sure. And so the task of the committee is to research this, study it, and then report and invite public feedback on all of this. And then the council at that point will take it and decide if, whether to maybe put it on a ballot or something like that for voters to decide. But
or not.
Or not. Yeah, they may decide, look, all the evidence suggests this is probably the system that works best for us right now. We'll check back in 10 years or something like that. But I was just looking through the committee agenda from previous meetings, and y'all are covering a lot of ground. I mean, this hasn't been, just talking about little bits and pieces here and there. This has really been digging into everything from salary costs of different type of governments to even, ROI, for lack of a better word, for residents of a county on, services provided and things like that. Right. How do you go about doing this research? That seems tough in and of itself.
The first thing we did, Jason, was to educate ourselves so that we knew as committee members we fully understand the 4 forms of government allowed by the Constitution. Then we have conducted surveys. We first surveyed current and past elected officials in the county. Then we surveyed political leaders and community leaders in nearby jurisdictions like mayors and city administrators and people like that. We surveyed them.
Sure.
And then we surveyed the county employees because they're on the front lines every day with the jobs they have.
Oh, that makes sense.
And we're interested to hear what they have to say about forms of government. And then lastly, we're going to hold these public meetings and get feedback from the public, and that will include a survey for the public.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, interesting.
When you have a political science professor helping you, you have tools that you might not normally have, and Professor Ken has really helped us in that regard. So that's the process, and then after all that is done, then we look for common threads among all those people, officials, employees, public. What are the common threads? What we know we're not going to get a unanimous thing there. Okay, this is the form of government we want.
Sure.
But
and you're not expecting that, right?
No, but I think there will be common threads that will come out that will pretty much give us an indication of where we would want to recommend to the county council.
Do you, with someone with some experience dealing with planning ahead at the legislative level on a much more complex level, a statewide level, do you are you seeing anything that has you thinking, okay, right now this might be good, but thinking ahead, planning ahead down the road, we may want to consider some changes? Are you seeing anything like that in your study so far? Or?
Well, we have to consider that. We have to consider actually the past, the present, and the future.
Sure.
We have to look at the past, how things worked, the present, how are things working, and the future, what will work best as our county grows and as things develop within Cache County.
And that's a big task.
Well, it is, and that's why we really need the public to turn out to these meetings. And at the appropriate time, I'll give you the time and place of each of those meetings.
Sure.
But we really, really would urge the public to come out. They can also come to our regular meetings, which are every 2 weeks, and they're on the county website when we're meeting. We always meet in the county historic courthouse in the council chambers.
Open to the public.
Absolutely.
That is, and again, as you've heard here, the study committee is planning 3 open houses in September and October in Hiram, Logan, and Smithfield. So south, central, and then north, so everyone is close to one. They met just last night, and we'll meet again on October 1st. And as Jack has mentioned, these meetings are open to the public as well as the open house, the 3 open houses that will be planned. But the study committee has been working for a few months now on exactly that, studying different forms of government, and they will report back to the council on their findings and to the public. But again, they are hoping the public will be a part of the research project via these 3 open house conversations. So keep an eye on this one. Our guest here in the studio again is former state representative Jack Draxler and chair of the Cache County Form of Government Study Committee. And we'll talk more with Jack here in the studio right after this.
Hey, business owners, when it comes to your commercial insurance coverage, you deserve the best. This is Matt Robbins with Quality First Insurance. As an independent auto owners agency, we have access to many carriers and will give you options. We work hard to protect your business because you've worked hard to build it. Let's give your insurance coverage a fresh look. You've got nothing to lose and everything to gain. Call us today, 435-752-0101.
Banks require good credit, so how does that work at Dollar Loan Center?
Look, a lot of people have a crappy credit score, Craig. So what? That's our specialty, and we look at the whole picture, not just a number. We love to say yes quickly because we know it's important to our borrowers.
Well, what if you were denied in the past?
I love that question. If you were denied in the past and are still looking for a loan, before you go somewhere else and pay way too much, give us another shot. Everyone's situation changes. You might have a cosigner, new job, or raise, who knows, but we sure would like a chance to help you out.
DLC lends up to $5,000 in minutes, and you can get your cash in person at one of our 70 locations, on our website, don'tbebroke.com, or even over the phone with one of our helpful, real staff members. You're gonna love Dollar Loan Center.
Licensed by the Utah Department of Financial Institutions. Subject to approval, limitations may apply. See website for details.
Welcome back to KVN News for the People. Former state representative and current chair of the Cache County Form of Government Study Committee, Jack Draxler, here in the studio with us. And as Jack has mentioned, 3 open house meetings, open to the public, are planned for public engagement on this. They've done some research. As he's mentioned, they've surveyed county employees. They're going to be continuing work with political science professor Damon Cann on different forms of government and how they function. Cann has reported to the committee already on, the salary side of that. Is one cheaper or more expensive salary-wise? Interestingly enough, as you heard here on our show when Damon joined us, no, it's about a wash. I was surprised to learn that. But there's so much to this, and of course, with all the challenges and changes Cache County is facing, knowing that that the governance is set up to best meet those challenges is really important. And, of course, none of this can change, if that is the recommendation of the committee, without a vote of approval from the public. So that's kind of where we're at, and the research and study continues. But, Jack, you mentioned that 3 open houses are planned, and these are you've kind of described them in a way that makes me think these aren't just people coming in and sitting down watching a presentation and going home. This is a conversation that you're hoping to spark.
Exactly.
Okay.
We will give a brief presentation on the 4 forms of government, and I will go over those with your listeners before we're finished here. But then we will simply listen to the public, let them comment, and hear what they have to say about these 4 forms. So if it's okay, can I give the dates and places?
Yeah, please do.
So the first public meeting is a week from tonight, Thursday, September 25th, at 7 p.m. in the Hiram City Council chambers.
Okay.
The next meeting will be Thursday, October 16th at 7 p.m. in the Logan City Council chambers.
Okay.
And then the third one will be Thursday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. in the Smithfield City Council chambers.
Wow.
And anybody from anywhere in the county can go to any of these 3 meetings. We're just trying to make it convenient for folks.
I like that. South, Central, and North.
Yeah.
That's nice.
And so
I kind of hope they do the same thing with the rec center. Just to derail our conversation here. No, that is great, though, because you do have folks who don't want to travel, across the valley to attend one of these. So, and the more people that show up, the better.
Absolutely. Right? We really hope for a good turnout because people will be affected and are currently affected by our county government in ways that are usually a lot more immediate than even state government or federal government.
Yeah.
I mean, all levels have an effect on our lives, of course, but local government usually has the greatest effect, from roads to traffic to water quality to public safety, law enforcement. All those things are much more immediate with local governments.
Yeah. Your daily life is more impacted by a county council vote or a city council vote than anything the president or even the state legislature can do. And I wish that we saw recognition of that show up in the turnout for these elections. But hopefully we see it show up in the turnout for these open houses. Again, for listeners, as Jack has told us, 3 open houses planned by the study committee on different forms of government and where Cache County should go. That is Thursday, September 25th, a week from today, 7 p.m., Hiram Council Chambers.
Right.
Thursday, October 16th, at 7 p.m. at the Logan City Council Chambers. And then finally, Thursday, October 23rd, at 7 p.m. at the Smithfield City Council Chambers. And Jack, so what are we choosing from here? I'm very familiar with these, but many listeners may not. Most people know there's a council mayor or a council executive because that's kind of what we have here, right? What are the other choices or other options?
That's a great question. I hope it piques an interest in your listeners so that when they come to this meeting, they can learn a little bit more about each form of government and start to form an educated opinion. So the 4 forms of government allowed by the state constitution for county governments. One is the 3-member county commission, which is those are full-time positions, and those 3 commission members act as both the legislative branch and the executive branch. They make the policies and carry them out both. They're usually full-time employees.
Sure.
There's an expanded commission form where you can have more than 3 members of a commission.
Up to 7, right? Is that
correct?
Am I understanding that correctly?
And they operate the same in that whatever the number of commissioners is, they are both the legislative and the executive branch in that county. The next one would be the elected county council with a hired county manager.
Okay.
The person would be hired by the county commission, by the county council, I'm sorry, not by the commission, by the county council, and is essentially an at-will employee of that council.
So similar to the way a lot of cities do it. They have the council and they hire a city manager.
Okay. And then the fourth is the form of government we currently have, which is the elected county council and the elected county executive, where the powers of government are divided. The council is the legislative branch, and the county executive is the executive branch, and puts into practice the policies made by that county council. And that's a form of government we have right now. And we're trying to be completely fair and open and objective about this. Through these surveys that we've conducted, there are common threads starting to emerge.
Really?
But we're not publicizing those because we don't want to bias anybody.
Yeah, that could...
We want to wait until our discovery process is finished and then identify common threads and make a recommendation.
I think that's smart.
Yeah, we
because
don't
the
want
first
to
thing I would
drag
do
it
is
out.
I would talk about it here on air the minute
Of course
anything
you
was
would.
published, and then everybody's heads would be filled with that first, and maybe biased by that. So yeah, I think that's smart to wait as you study.
Yep. And so at these public meetings, we'll go into a little more detail explaining how those 4 forms of government work, and then we'll simply open it up to the public for questions and comments.
That is very nice. And again, these open houses, 3 of them, will take place very soon. Thursday, September 25th in Hiram at the council chambers there in Hiram at 7 p.m. Thursday, October 16th in Logan at the council chambers, also 7 p.m. And Thursday, October 23rd in Smithfield at the council chambers, also at 7 p.m. These are open to anyone, so if you're in the south of the valley, you miss one in Hiram, you can only make the one in Smithfield, go. Because the goal here is to talk to everyone in the valley, as many people as possible at least, and get some feedback. The study committee will then take what they learn at these open houses and turn that back into their overall work. And it's been, what is out right now, Jack, has been fascinating. You and I talked about this. We were both surprised by the same thing. When Damon did his research on just the salary side of things, which form of government comes with the highest cost to taxpayers salary-wise. If someone had asked me, I would have said 3 county commissioners, because they've got to hire so much professional staff, and so obviously more expensive. But no, we found out it was basically a wash as far as salaries go.
I was surprised at that, too. And, of course, that isolates salaries. There are certainly a lot of other costs for a county government besides salaries for their employees. But yeah, it seemed to be fairly even.
That is amazing.
In the current forms of government that are in operation in the 29 counties in the state right now.
This is going to be so fascinating to watch play out. And Jack, I hope you'll come back again soon when appropriate. Of course, we don't want to taint the committee's work in any way, but whenever appropriate, you're welcome to just stop by. And one more time for listeners, the 3 open houses the Cache County Form of Government Study Committee will be hosting Thursday, September 25th at 7 p.m. in Hiram at all of these at the City Council chambers. Thursday, October 16th at 7 p.m. in Logan, and Thursday, October 23rd at 7 p.m. in Smithfield. If you miss one, catch one of the others. These are not specific to where you live. These are open to everyone, and keep an eye on the work of the study committee because it is fascinating. And you can find more. I've linked to it on our Facebook page, but cachecounty.gov/study-committee. You can follow their regular meetings and more. Their next meeting, of course, coming up October 1st. And our guest again here in the studio has been former Representative Jack Draxler, current chair of the Cache County Study Committee, Cache County Form of Government Study Committee. And Jack, always a pleasure to have you. Thank you for your time.
Thanks. I appreciate it, Jason.
And to our listeners, thank you for your time as well. Stick around. More to come after these headlines with KVNU's Will Feel Right.
Well, thank you very much, Jason. The city of Tremonton has announced it's honoring 2 police officers who were killed and a sheriff's deputy and canine officer who were wounded in a recent domestic violence incident. Tremonton Mayor Lyle Holmgren earlier this week, along with the city council, issued a city proclamation recognizing the bravery and sacrifice of Sergeant Lee Sorensen and Officer Eric Estrada of the Tremonton-Garland Police Department, along with Box Elder County Sheriff's Deputy Mike Allred and Canine Officer Azula. Now, the proclamation stated that the officers and Canine Azula had served with honor, courage, and selfless dedication, standing as guardians of peace and protectors of the community. Now, it also noted that the tragedy had arose from the terrible reality of domestic violence, a crisis that devastates lives, tears families apart, and far too often places victims and first responders at risk. Now, the city also extended its deepest condolences and unwavering support to the families and colleagues of the officers. The proclamation also reaffirms the city's commitment to combating domestic violence, supporting survivors, and working with law enforcement to build safer communities. Meanwhile, a 48-year-old Nibley man has been arrested for allegedly sexually abusing a young girl years ago, according to law enforcement. Scott Kidman was booked on Monday into the Cache County Jail after a warrant was issued by a judge. Now, according to the warrant affidavit, Cache County Sheriff's deputies received a child sex abuse report back in July. Now, the alleged victim had claimed that Kidman had molested her numerous times years ago. The woman said the abuse began around January of 2010 when she was 8 years old. Now, the alleged victim also told deputies how Kidman began viewing her changing clothes and using the bathroom while at a home in Millville. Now, during another incident, Kidman allegedly molested her while at a public swimming pool in Logan. Now, the woman also told deputies that the incidents allegedly got worse after the family moved to Nibley. Now, Kidman allegedly continued to molest the young girl on a regular basis for several years. Now, deputies found a similar investigation was actually initiated against Kidman in 2015 after several other girls claimed that Kidman had molested them. Now, they also had reported being shown child sexual abuse material and were told by the suspect not to tell anyone about their little game. Now, at the time of the earlier investigation, police had found several holes had been drilled in the walls of a bathroom, but when confronted about them, Kidman had stated that they had to rewire some electrical wires during a remodel. Now, court records show that the first investigation remains open and charges were never filed. After reviewing evidence from the second investigation, the Cache County Attorney's Office filed a criminal case against Kidman. The charges included 3 counts of object rape, a first-degree felony. Now, Kidman remains in jail being held temporarily without bail. He's scheduled to appear before a judge next week. And Logan City officials have announced that the access road and trails around Trapper Park in Logan will be closing for the season beginning Monday, and that'll allow for necessary construction improvements to begin to take place. Now, the park is expected to reopen in the spring of 2026. According to Logan Parks and Rec, the improvements will include a canal enclosure project, a river restoration project, and the installation of a pedestrian bridge. Now, the canal will be enclosed to prevent seepage losses, and a new diversion will be added to the Logan River. Now, officials also said that debris such as cars, concrete, and other rubble will be removed to enhance the Blue Trail access and improve the area. Now, over the next 15 years also, crews plan to replace invasive willow trees with a non-invasive species that will maintain habitat, canopy, and water quality. Now, additionally, a pedestrian bridge will be installed on the west side of Trapper Park to allow for a future trail expansion across the river. Well, it's going to continue to be a gorgeous afternoon as, it can't get much better. Fall in Cache Valley. Have you started to notice, though, they have a lot of red over on the Wellsville Mountains as the leaves are already starting to change. And we'll see some cooler temperatures coming after the next couple of days, as tomorrow we'll be back into the high 70s to low 80s. Tonight we'll see a few clouds, and then increasing clouds with a chance of some showers coming for Saturday and Sunday. And weather this hour brought to you by Whole Tree Care. Definitely time to start thinking about fall tree trimming and get it done, especially where you can still save 10% by calling Whole Tree Care today at 760-6587. And I'm Will Feelright with your KVNU News headlines.
For over a decade, Roof Rescue has been safeguarding your homes with the finest roofing solutions. We understand the value of your time. That's why we're committed to replacing most roofs in just one day. With award-winning service, 100% guaranteed workmanship, and the best warranties in the industry, your watertight peace of mind is guaranteed. Call us today at 435-999-4268 or visit roofrescueusa.com and ask for the $250 off any roof replacement. Financing available? That's roofrescueusa.com.
Hi, this is Sam Goebel from Byington & Goebel. We're truly honored to be named the Best of Northern Utah Gold winner for Best Law Firm, practicing in family law, criminal law, general civil litigation, and probate. This community means everything to us, and we're grateful for every customer who made this possible. Thank you for your trust.
Hey golfers, this is Eric Clevin at Birch Creek inviting you to support the Cash Food Pantry and be a team sponsor at the second annual Birdies for Backpacks charity golf event to be played on Tuesday, October 14th. Call Birch Creek today and be a team sponsor and support the Cash Food Pantry Birdies for Backpacks charity golf event to be played on Tuesday, October 14th. Call Birch Creek today for information. That's Birch Creek Golf Course in Smithfield.
This is Cache County Fire District Chief Brady George. Due to increasingly dry conditions and high wildfire danger, Stage 1 fire restrictions are now in effect. These restrictions apply to all unincorporated private and state lands in Cache County. These restrictions include no open fires of any kind except within established facilities or in improved campgrounds or day-use areas on public lands. No smoking except within an enclosed vehicle, trailer, or building, a developed recreation site, or while stopped in an area that is paved or free from dry vegetation. No cutting, welding, or grinding metal in areas of dry vegetation. No operating a motorcycle, chainsaw, ATV, or other small internal combustion engine without an approved and working spark arrestor. No discharging or using fireworks, tracer ammunition, or other pyrotechnic devices, including exploding targets. Any of these acts is a violation of Utah state law and is punishable by up to 6 months in jail and a fine of up to $1,000. Cache County Fire District urges all residents and visitors to use caution during outdoor activities. Preventing wildfires and protecting the beauty of Cache County is a shared responsibility.
Levels. Get on my elevator, baby, we're going up. Give me that now and later. I can't get enough. So much to discover.
Welcome back to KVN News for the people. There is so much going on in the news today. It just sometimes it just seems to just speed up and speed up and speed up. The legislature, to be honest with you, I think this might be one of the bigger legislative stories that I've seen in a long time. But how to explain why is what I've been kind of racking my brain over. Obviously, to someone outside of Cache County, you might not be able to even get them to care unless they're in the legislature or in academic circles. But if you've lived here in Cache Valley your whole life, you know USU is a part of our community. USU contributes a lot to the job market here in Cache Valley. USU's location here in Cache Valley is a lot of the reason hundreds of businesses that wouldn't be here otherwise are here employing people. And, of course, the university itself generates its own form of revenue for county and city governments. But it is also an independent entity that kind of budgetarily has a much closer relationship with the legislature than any city or county or any city in the valley or the county. So it's kind of this weird quasi-entity that's just plopped, taking up a good chunk of real estate here in Cache County. And we should be glad it's here. I'm glad it's here for the research. Having a lot of this stuff happen in our own backyard and the access we have to, partake as a student or otherwise of some of the things that happen at USU. I just think it's really cool and fun. But again, from just a governmental point of view, it's an important thing. It's a big part of why our economy here in Cache County weathers recessions so well. So we should all feel lucky it's here. That said, a surprising development at the legislative committee meetings yesterday during a regular interim discussion. And that was, a little backstory here. The legislature, for better or worse, in the legislative session earlier this year, they passed a bill that mandated significant cuts at universities around the state. Now, they wanted this to total up to about a $60 million cut overall. Not from one school, but overall they wanted $60 million of what the legislature was putting into universities to be cut from what they were putting in. That amounts to about 10% of taxpayer dollars that are appropriated to public instruction from each school's budget. So not the end of the world for each school, 10% of their budget, but roughly, some it was a bit more, others. Each institution was mandated to meet that target, but then to kind of soften that blow, the legislature said each institution could then earn back all of that money if they could show that the funds could be reinvested in degrees that lead to high-wage jobs and things the state has prioritized. So this is, in the end, this all came out in a horrible way, mainly because you had Speaker Mike Schultz as the spokesperson for this whole movement. He's the wrong messenger on that one, I'm telling you. Not just because he didn't go to college himself. He's just too often put his foot in his mouth in various ways, including many times that have involved Utah State University directly. So personally, I think they should get another spokesperson for this, but that's just a PR side of it. I think the overall endeavor is probably a smart one because any entity can develop bloat. So again, that's what happened in the legislative session. Lawmakers said, find 10% of your budget to cut, and then and show us your plan to do that. And then you can get that 10% of your budget back if you show us it can be reinvested in ways that lead to high-wage jobs and things the state has in industries the state has prioritized. That's, I think, a very smart way for the legislature to go about this. In the end, I was fully supportive. What happened yesterday? Or Monday, sorry. Monday, Utah lawmakers formally approved these proposed new budgets from the state public colleges and universities, all but one. And unfortunately, it was Utah State University's. And that leaves USU in a pretty big bind. So without approval for its plans, USU in northern Utah will still be on the hook to make those mandated, what for USU equates to about $12 million in cuts. $12 million of the total $60 million the legislature wanted cut from around the state comes from USU. But there's a chance now that they've given up the possibility of getting any of that back. The second part of the agreement with the legislature via legislation passed earlier this year to get all of the money you cut from budget back if you can show that it can be reinvested in different ways to lead to more people graduating and ending up in higher paying jobs in industries the legislature has listed as a priority. USU will still be on the hook, of course, for the $12 million in cuts, but they now may not be in consideration anymore for getting that money back. So why did this happen? If you're curious about this, if you're someone who cares about USU or follows USU closely in any way, either for economic reasons or just as your alma mater or just someone who is curious about public policy and education, go listen to the committee meeting, because you can actually hear the moment when the light bulb goes on in many committee members' heads and some frustration sets in. Lawmakers on the Executive Appropriations Committee, after the light bulb goes on, began criticizing the USU's plan. And the criticism, with one lawmaker saying, this doesn't meet our expectations, and, quote, what were we trying to accomplish here? Posed as a question to representatives of Utah State University. House Speaker Mike Schultz, of course, was the most vocal. And again, maybe the right message, wrong messenger in this case, but it is what it is. And he had originally proposed higher education cuts. He was walked back, basically, by the rest of the legislature, and that was smart because he was getting out over his skis, I think. But his criticism on Monday and criticism from other lawmakers focused on what they saw as administrative bloat at Utah State University. Schultz on Monday said, out of all the institutions, this is the one I have the most concerns with. In the end, the committee ultimately voted to approve the plans from the other 7 schools, public institutions, and colleges. And now USU will be separately required to revise the plan. Now they're cutting them some slack. They're giving them until they've officially selected a new president, not just operating under an interim president. And then they're giving the opportunity to present that a second time to the Utah Board of Higher Education and the legislature itself. And again, this may cost USU, or at least significantly delay USU getting any of these cuts back if they can show that they can be reinvested in productive ways, a deal the legislature basically made when they demanded these cuts. They said, we want to cut $60 million from what we're spending on public colleges across the board in the state. So break it down to roughly 10% per university. And then you can get all that money back if you can come back to us later and say, we could reinvest all of the cuts we made. If we had that money back, we can reinvest it in these ways. Then if the legislature signs off on it, then their budget, they get that 10% budget cut back. And all this is a way to, the legislature obviously wanting to force universities to kind of think about this, to look it over, to get rid of, education tracks and major programs that weren't highly populated and hadn't been for years, but also to get more creative about investing where taxpayer dollars are funded in education tracks that are putting people into higher paying jobs. That's a challenge the state is trying to meet and not having much luck at. Wages in Utah are low in relation to similar states. So all of this makes sense. So what happens now? Well, unfortunately, Alan Smith, poor guy, serving as interim leader, interim president in the meantime, was kind of thrown into this. And the school's proposal, it did include reducing employees. If you remember, about 120 full-time positions would be eliminated at USU, and largely through voluntary retirements. And then they would end 14 academic programs. Some departments were also merged, humanities as well as the sciences, getting a lot of that. And of the cuts, about $3.4 million were related to administrative efficiency. So out of the $12 million, about a third were related to administrative efficiencies. And he told lawmakers Monday in his presentation that he'd planned to reinvest most of that money back into technologies and careers of the future, computing, artificial intelligence, and engineering, he said. And he said, obviously we learned a lot through this. We've got to be more nimble. But Schultz wasn't having it. The Speaker of the House he called USU's plans duplicative and suggested that all schools in the state don't need to be offering the same degrees. He said, I think there's other institutions that can pick that up. He'd also criticized University of Utah, and the Speaker said at least the U, though, has a health focus, kind of cutting them some slack on So again, the criticism here was that USU is a land-grant institution and their administrative costs are still too bloated. Now, where Schultz is getting that perspective or that information, he didn't offer, and not any other committee members agreed with him. That's worth pointing out as well. And he does seem to have a bone to pick with USU, and there are some reasons for that. There was an embarrassing episode earlier in the year in which Schultz believed something he saw on Twitter and jumped into the fray at USU, and they'd already handled the situation, and that ended up being kind of embarrassing for him. I'm not saying that's why he's picking on USU. He may have a point here, but that's what happened. And so all the schools were congratulated for their efforts, including USU, but in the end, USU's plan was put on hold with the Speaker of the House and a couple of other committee members at least nodding with him in the video, saying that USU hadn't done enough to get administrative costs down. And what happens next is kind of anyone's guess. So we'll just keep an eye on this one. Full story and some reporting by the Salt Lake Tribune. I've linked to it on our Facebook page. We'll be back right after this.
Before the Aggies take on McNeese this Saturday, fuel up at the annual Ad Bay Barbecue from 3 to 5:30 at Craig Aston Park. Enjoy a mouth-watering feast of beef, pork, lamb, dairy, and more. Every bite helps fund student scholarships. Tickets are available at the gate or online at agbbq.usu.edu. That's agbbq.usu.edu. Proudly sponsored by Utah Zone and the Utah Department of Agriculture and Food. Don't miss the annual Ad Bay Barbecue this Saturday starting at 3 at Craig Aston Park.
This is Krista Lewis from Bank of Utah. Thank you for voting us Best Bank in Northern Utah for the 4th year in a row. Bank of Utah is honored to have earned your trust and your business. As a commercial lending team leader, I've had the privilege of helping businesses and individuals grow right here in our community. Stop by and see us in Logan or Providence, and thanks again for making us your best bank.
Bank of Utah, member FDIC, and NMLS number 422914.
For 100 years, the Murdoch Auto Team has served Utah's automotive needs. It's a legacy we're honored to carry forward. The generations before us taught us to treat every customer with honesty, dignity, and respect. And as the 4th generation, we'll continue that tradition at Murdoch Volkswagen. During the anniversary sale, take up to $6,456 off a new 2025 Atlas. When you walk through our doors, you feel like family. At Murdoch Volkswagen in Logan or online at murdochvw.com.
Call 888-391-6083 or see dealer for complete details. Offer expires 9/30/25.
Set sail with Princess Cruises for unforgettable destinations, luxury amenities, and world-class service. From the Caribbean to Alaska to Europe and Asia, every Princess Cruise is a dream come true. Book your cruise today with Morris Columbus Travel, your vacation experts. Visit morriscolumbus.com.
Come on and get away, Morris Columbus.
Prices have been reduced again during Anderson's Seed and Garden Cash and Carry Sale. They've marked down all remaining trees, shrubs, evergreens, and perennials to 40% off. But if you pay with cash, you save an additional 10% off your purchase price during their annual Fall Cash and Carry Sale. That's 50% off a wide selection of top-notch plants in stock. Get them now before they're gone, but hurry while the selection is the best. Anderson's Seed and Garden, 69 West Center, Logan. Grow something amazing. Cash in on beauty today.
Thank you for tuning in today. That is our show. I hope you'll be with us tomorrow as we spend some quality time with Andy Morgan of AndyTheMovies.com, the For the People movie show. We've got a lot to talk about, including some what Andy calls forgotten classics of the last year. Movies that he loved that just didn't get a lot of attention. They're now hitting streaming services. That's tomorrow. Also, we'll talk about Cache County officials revealing a timetable of steps toward their proposed property tax increase. When you can, offer some feedback and learn more about why and when and how much. All of that tomorrow on For the People. Hope you'll stick around. Dave Ramsey is next here on KVNU Logan.